Call the meeting to order at 2:11. In terms of, because Bobby is running behind, in terms of amending the agenda, I would suggest that we move the 2:15 nominations and votes for offices of the board to at the end of the, later in the meeting so that Bobby can be here. Let's say move that down to 2:40, let's say.
I think we need to take out the 2:10. And maybe we could add. If not for this meeting, another next month. A mission statement update for the COA board. Because we don't know if we have.
No. Right, we don't, which is why I used the word
Right,
upcoming.
right.
Thoughts on that?
I think you should remove it.
Okay,
I like the idea of substituting the mission statement. Just a heads up, Janine texted me at 1:15 to say that she cannot make it today. Hopes to see us soon.
Katie, is there any way that we can get a copy of the minutes, the schedule for today with the time?
oh yeah, no,
Yes.
here, I got a next one.
Do you want me
Okay,
to
makes-
run a
okay.
couple copies?
Yeah.
I've got another one too, so.
Yeah. Yep, we're just gonna run a couple off.
Oh.
Does everybody get one? Thank you. Thank you, sorry.
That's all right.
There's no director's report on this, but I don't have a director's report for you, so. How intuitive of you to know that.
That's true.
Oh, yeah.
Well, if this keeps going like it's going, we won't have anything to talk about.
With the new statement down here on public input. I need to talk to you later because it's not gonna have anything to do. This has to do with, lawsuit issues.
Okay.
And not the return.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
That's March. Okay.
Yeah.
If anyone's taking a nap. And that's me with the nap back.
What's that?
Nap time.
You don't
We
get
would both like to have a nap.
Okay, so the, as I understand it, the agenda will be amended as following: the 2:10 discussion regarding upcoming board vacancy will be deleted. The nominations and votes for officers of the board will be moved to 2:40. Hopefully in order to allow Bobby to get here. And Marge asked that mission statement update be added.
For the COA board to have our own mission statement.
Oh, I see. Okay, and where would you like that to go? you have any,
Um,
2:30? I mean, afterthoughts on open office hours? Or,
any place we want to put it.
okay,
We're open
Yeah,
today.
you're wide open today.
We're
Alright.
open today.
so why don't we put it right after
The agenda. Or are you gonna do it later?
yeah, why don't we do it?
Now.
Yeah, why don't we do it now after the agenda is approved? Any other changes?
Make a motion that we accept the agenda as amended.
I second it.
All those in favor?
I,
All those opposed, hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. The agenda is approved as amended. Meeting minutes for last month, which I know Mary Ellen just sent out. Maybe if folks have a chance to review those, take a couple of minutes.
yeah,
Yeah, I did not.
Can everyone hear okay?
No.
Okay,
So,
you guys are all loud talkers except when you sit around the
That's
table.
right.
You talk very softly, then the AC adds to the background noise. So, all right.
so we are now in the process of just taking a glance at, well, reviewing the June 11th meeting minutes that Mary Ellen just sent out. I read them just before coming in and they seemed fine to me.
Yeah, I didn't see, as I ran through them, I did not see anything.
If there are edits, I can take edits. Mary Ellen's, shifted Mary Ellen's priorities for a little while. Her statewide outreach coordinator meeting has started back up again. They're gonna meet once a month. It happens to be on the second Tuesday at 2 p.m. So she's gonna take minutes, but she's gonna take minutes from the recording.
Oh,
So she
Okay.
won't be here joining the meetings, so she'll still be doing that. So if there are edits, she can either take the edits from our discussion in the recording, or I can take notes on the edits.
Okay.
so. In the event of any member being absent 3 consecutive meetings.
Can you guys talk just a little bit louder?
I
I know you guys are talking to each other,
can.
but why are we here if we can't hear you? Right.
3 consecutive meetings. And
so that, you mean in terms of the COA board policies?
yes,
Okay,
and we adopted these in May.
Yes, so May, June, and July would now be 3 absences for Janine. Is that what you're saying? Yes, okay.
Where are we?
But don't we have to accept the minutes first?
We did.
No, we didn't.
No, well, when we do. Because we accepted
Accepted
these.
those.
Right. So, fair point. Are we comfortable with the
So I think
minutes?
we have to accept
Yeah.
these minutes
Yes.
first before we move on.
Or are you asking a question about what is talked about in there, in the minutes for that
Yes.
section? Okay, now I understand.
Yes,
Sorry. I'm catching up here.
I know.
So Marge is making sure that the section of the minutes that pertains to the adoption of the COA policies and the clarification of what we did the last meeting is accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
yes, and it's my understanding that they are. That it is accurate.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is,
And what happens after that? After we accept these?
Well, after we approve the minutes, so you wanted to talk about the policy pertaining to absences by board members. Okay, so do we want to approve the minutes first?
I make a motion, we accept the minutes.
Second.
All those in favor?
I,
All those opposed, hearing none, that motion passes. So in terms of, I don't have a copy of the policy.
I have it right here.
Okay,
That's a.
So that's unfortunately not on the agenda.
I know,
Um,
but we accepted those are the bylaws.
yes,
right.
And we all had those in our emails.
right, so so the question is, should I contacted, I left a couple of messages for Janine earlier, sent her an email. She did not respond to me directly. And obviously she's not at this meeting. It was my understanding that she was considering not continuing on the board. But evidently she has not yet notified the Board of Selectmen to officially have that go into force.
Mhm.
So the question is how to proceed in the absence of her following up with that. Does the board feel like I should reach out to her again and ask her to anybody have any thoughts on that? Or,
I'm not to be a stickler. I'm just gonna say, given the way we revise the agenda, it's not on the agenda. So I think you either need to revise your motion to say you wanna leave the upcoming board vacancy in it and we discuss it, or you want to take it out and we don't discuss it today. I think you've got to fix it.
okay,
I know
No,
it's
that makes sense.
procedural. I'm just
Yeah.
saying,
yeah.
Let's, my recommendation would be to adjust it and leave it, we can discuss it.
Leave it in,
Leave, yeah, amend the amendment to leave it in
okay,
for discussion purposes. Are you
So-
good with that, Marjorie?
so then the motion would be to amend the amendment that removed upcoming board vacancy and to reinsert it.
Yeah.
So one of you needs to,
I'll
Say
make the
that.
motion that we amend the amended agenda to leave the discussion of board vacancy.
and then when Mary Ellen does the minutes, we can put those two amendments right next to each other. So then there needs to be a second to do it.
okay, all those in favor?
I,
All those opposed? None? Okay,
I mean, I guess it's a potential board vacancy though, but
yes, yeah, I guess potential more than a plan.
Okay, so now go for it. Sorry.
All right,
so I pulled up, I have the section of it where it says the attendance. It says absent for 3 consecutive meetings, except for reasons of health or extenuating circumstances. Has reported to the chairperson in advance of the meeting.
any at the events, on the occasions, the council may by regard recommend shall request move the select board. So the question, I guess, for us comes to do we feel that the criteria has been met such that we can ask the select board to either request a resignation? Oh, hey, Bobby. That's all right, I understand.
right here.
Could I ask the chair, is it possible for us to have any comment about this?
let's,
It's an
let's
easy-
flesh it, yeah, let's flesh it out a little bit, but I'll come back.
Instead of talking, to her, you're not getting any, sending her a certified letter. And then you'd have an answer. Where she's not returning calls.
Yeah.
I guess it's,
That's my suggestion.
we also probably have to, one of the things also says is that the rules and the regulations may be amended by, provided that the amendment has been circulated to all members at least 14 days prior to the meeting. So I'd go back to, when did we send this for your, to start with 3 months? The approved one.
Well, this would have been July would have been the third month, I think. We approved.
Did we approve them in May?
We approved them in May.
So the approved ones went out with,
Well, they went out in April, I would assume. I mean, we saw them in April.
right, yeah, did we make changes? That's why I don't remember.
So what happened is in the April meeting, Dennis presented the first draft.
Yeah.
It might have even been a second draft, but no, you get, at the March meeting, you handed it out at the end of the meeting and said, take a look at it. In the April meeting, everyone looked at it and made some changes to it. And then you guys agreed to make a motion to accept it as amended. And then in the May meeting, you brought back a version of it for everyone to see that was final with the changes that were made. There was some confusion about whether you needed to reapprove them, but I said, no, you put those into effect in. So technically, it was first presented to the board in March, but April.
Yeah.
It was approved in May.
So this would be the second one.
So this will be the second one.
Yep.
So, yeah, so I think it has to go into effect. If it's approved in May, I don't think the May meeting can necessarily count.
No.
So I think June and
Yeah,
July,
July.
2 months of absences.
So the question for me is, do we continue to make efforts to reach out to Janine prior to the third month? Just to get a sense of how she would like to proceed. Or if she would, I feel like there's.
I'd be happy to call her. If I got her phone number.
Okay, no, actually, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah,
And again, Bob, just to let you know, I left her a couple of messages on her phone. And also emailed her,
yeah, well,
and
it's just phone.
I didn't hear back.
Yeah.
But I think it would be great if someone other than I
Yeah,
kind of reached out to her.
yeah, I'll call Janine.
Okay. And again, we're trying to get a sense of what she would like to do,
Yeah,
so that we can move forward,
yeah, thanks.
one way or the other.
Yeah.
Because it's an untenable situation to allow it to linger perpetually. Do the other board members feel comfortable with that?
I didn't.
I'm not gonna read it
Mhm.
out on the recording. That's gonna end up on the,
Can you
But
see
I
it?
do
want me to
believe that. you
yeah, we
contacted
tried.
Kate. So I guess, and well.
Yeah.
That's outside of the realm
That's
of
okay.
what,
I just
Our
didn't wanna
new
read
policy
out her
states.
personal phone number
so I guess
on
I
a recorded
want to make sure that we're
public meeting.
sort of covering it on that basis as well too. That not putting anybody else
Okay.
into that situation. It's got to go to the chair.
Thank you.
That's what, if she's gonna call out.
Yes,
I mean, in
yes,
essence, if you're calling out sick, you gotta call the chair.
yeah. No, I
Probably
agree.
much better.
No,
And to Janine's credit, she has always contacted me with
Right.
an assorted reason. So,
mhm,
but I think the policy does then makes it very clear who to contact.
Right, but it also, yes, but even in the presence of repeated contacts to whomever. The repeated absences still become problematic.
so I'll just say, if I could, I'd say, I noticed you haven't been in a lot of meetings recently. I'm not the best at attending meetings myself, as they say. And, I get the, medical report and, so I get to, she has a valid reason. I just tell her to contact you. The selectman, maybe, if she
Right.
wants to be reappointed. If she's got a valid reason.
Yes, and I think that. Yes, I think that'll be fine.
Okay.
I just I think it would be good for her to give a clear
Yeah,
answer to
Direction.
the board.
yeah.
As to what her plans are,
Mhm,
and then act upon that,
mhm,
so that we can move forward.
yeah.
In the absence of that, the clock strikes midnight, the August meeting comes around. But then, it's another month.
Yeah,
So thank you for doing that, Bobby, and let,
I'm happy to do it.
and you can call each member, each of us individually with what your conversation is.
It's my number.
Okay. I'm getting more from you. I'm getting from you.
Okay, so the next item, thoughts on board member open office hours for the fall. The reason I wanted to bring this, and obviously we made an effort at open office hours. It did not go particularly successfully. There was only, to the best of my recollection, only one occasion where there was one person there, except for when I attended the Pleasant Street normally scheduled monthly meeting. At which time Barbara had, just hung up the notices, and there was pretty good attendance at that. And people seemed genuinely engaged. So one thought I had for the fall is that instead of holding an open office hour meeting where we sit and wait for them to come to us, that in September, October, we go to them. That is one meeting a month, maybe, or one meeting every other month. Some member of the board goes to that committee's meeting and asks for their suggestions, inputs, questions about the senior center or the running the operation, or so that we get, I don't know, it's just a thought. It's not necessarily senior directed, but it does kind of increase the visibility of the board and the senior center.
And if there was any way to even go wider than that, if there was some way we could get into Autumn Ridge as well too, to see sort of if there's anything, and if you think about what the board's supposed to be doing is the advocacy, is there anything that's from that perspective that they have? And I don't know the answer to that.
I think it's a great idea. I think there's a lot of little subgroups of people in town that tend to have senior members. Um. One really good or one really terrible option would be, go either way, would be as the building committee is doing that very thing. You could either put them in the same meeting, or you could follow them. One could trail the other, like you could schedule each of those, the building committee and the COA, to be like, well, let's do one for August and one for September with that same organization, if they're willing to give us, or otherwise 2 time slots, although again, could be terrible if one overshadows the other, so.
Okay. So to answer your question, I think they're valid. It's just trying to finding out some way by which to make it more workable so that it is getting.
Well, if it goes on. And again, we don't need to. If like a COA board member outreach, we put that on the agenda of particular boards, and again, pick one, the Conservation Commission, the Air Housing Authority, the you know, the Autumn Ridge folks, Pleasant Street Apartments have their weekly, weekly coffee, I
Turtle
guess.
Hill,
What's that?
Turtle. Isn't Turtle Hill a condo? They have some seniors.
I don't know
Oh,
where
sure.
Turtle Hill is in there.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And I think it's off of Loon Hill. Over
Don't
off
know
of
where that
West,
one is
over
either.
off of Westford Road,
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
but those aren't all senior.
they're not all seniors,
Yeah.
but there's a good,
There's a
I've de-
significant number of.
I've delivered special meals up
But do
there.
they have do they have like community meetings, regularly scheduled?
Well, they have to
I
community-
think they
HOA
have to
meetings, I
have
would think so.
HOAs. And
I mean, that's what-
I've delivered our meals up there and
So they'll be required, their incorporate articles of incorporation will require them to have one meeting a
Mhm.
year at least.
Yeah,
So I think the legwork that needs to be done is how many condo associations or how many of these organizations to create a draft list
Mhm.
and then divvy up who's gonna contact each one of them and find out, we might be able to fill the next 12 months worth of meetings, you know,
Mhm.
spaced out.
Mhm.
You know, we might be able to schedule that now, because maybe someone will meet in December and another one will meet in April, but we
Yeah,
could go ahead and ask now to be on there.
yeah, yeah.
I think that, coming up with that list.
I
is
think
the-
it's the same here too, that we could do again, doesn't have to be 9 AM, a coffee. And really advertise it here
Mhm.
too. Um,
So the folks who live in these buildings, do you have a monthly or a weekly meeting?
No,
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 no, we don't.
Okay.
Pleasant Street has one, but you guys don't have one. No.
Start one?
that might be something to talk to Teresa about.
okay, yeah,
so is there ever a meeting of the Air Housing Authority here?
Yes, it's a meeting once a month
Okay,
for the board members.
just for the
But
board members?
No, it's open to the public.
Okay,
But there's no
Right.
tennis meeting.
No,
Okay. so you just have that meeting there with,
all we have is a box to put suggestions
okay,
or questions into. There is, and I don't know his name, there is a tenant representative. And I've only met him when he was introduced. There's been no public forum. Like going to each building or even having a total meeting that.
Okay.
Anybody has.
so if you have, it's hard to say, because you're splitting them up between advocacy and like issues and those types of things, like how do you drive that? So you would go to the tenant representative, or you would put a note in the,
Each building has a suggestion box. And you put your suggestions or comments into that box.
Yeah.
I don't even know how often they check them. I was told that, box is checked every time the rent box is checked.
but you each have like a porch area or a. Communal room.
Yes, but it's. Maybe half the size of this. Yeah, it wouldn't be big enough
Wow,
to hold the entire community in one place.
wow,
can the tenant speak at that monthly meeting?
That's really what this
Okay.
room becomes for them.
Yeah, it's the only. Yeah, apartments are in this.
Oh, God forbid. I'm not sure.
150?
I think there's, 18 in building C. And, or in building B rather. Building C is like a community.
A community center.
Well, that's where people who, can't quite live on themselves, that
Mhm.
they need extra help and everything.
Okay.
So all they have is a kitchen area,
okay,
okay? And building A. If you had 20 people in there, there's no way. No
Okay.
way.
Okay,
Something would have to be done down here. But there is no tenants meeting per se.
so if I come with my box of coffee and my donuts
They may
outside on
come
a
for
summer
that
day,
and leave.
outside on the summer day.
So Bobby, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I just wanted to inquire, is the Pleasant Street, they have elected representatives? Or do they, meet?
It's one person for the entire housing.
But Pleasant Street has a week, which I attended, and I think Katie's planning on attending as well for the purpose of the building committee, has a weekly coffee.
Yeah,
That's just kind of like the tenants getting together
yeah, fine.
and it's, yeah, so in the one that I attended was, I mean, they had 8 to 10 people, 8 to 12 people there.
Mhm.
Who kind of are gonna be there, and it's a great way to kind of meet them and see what their concerns are, specific to the senior center.
Mhm.
But, you know, nature being nature, you tend to hear a little bit about housing authority concerns as well, but for the purposes of the senior center, it was a good way to kind of reach out to them. And it seems like that's, you know, Wednesday mornings at 10 o'clock is the time at Pleasant Street Apartments. So, next steps. Condo associations. So I will, I'll compile a list of all the official town boards and committees. And when their presumably monthly or bi-monthly meetings are. I mean, some of them will be more relevant to our purposes than others, but it would be good to just have a comprehensive list of that. And it's gonna be fairly easy, I think, just getting it off the web. Did you wanna, Marge, did you wanna look at condo associations around town and Autumn Ridge and I don't know, Loon Hill or what's that, Turkey Hill?
Turtle,
Turtle.
Turtle,
the turtle
it's
crossing,
Turtle
the
Hill,
turtle crossing.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
Who's that?
they launch canoes and stuff behind it. And-
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, I'm just trying to sort out a way that, and again, my thought is that although this will piggyback nicely on the building committee work and just kind of increasing informational awareness regarding that, my thought was more about the senior center and operations and in the long term, you know, how to make the seniors in town or the people in town more aware of what is available and will be available here and what they think might be most helpful for them. And that would hopefully continue even after the building is built.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Katie, did you want to talk a little bit about the building committee and your and Autumn Ridge and
Oh, sure. So the building committee met at the end of last month. And we reviewed initial floor plans for the senior center. I need to hang those up actually. And the site work, you know, then looking at the soils and the soil samples, the data, like the online database soil data. Looking at those, the architect, going forward, the architect is going to refine the floor plan based on our initial feedback and begin to look at, for the 2 sites under consideration, how it could be sited on each site. And then we authorized test borings both at Bishop Road and at Groton Harvard Road, contingent upon approval of the appropriate school authority, which we now have. So test borings will start at some, DPW Dan is on vacation right now, but that will start to get coordinated when he comes back. So long story short, the process is moving forward. It's starting to feel very real now with two specific sites and a floor plan. And on next week, on the 19th, there will be a public forum here at the senior center to go over sort of review progress to date and then to talk in more detail about the plans. I have a survey, just a basic survey for people about what they'd like to see out of the senior center and the opportunity for them to comment specifically about a couple of things about the design that we were really most interested in public input about. Obviously, like, we're interested in all the public input, but there were two areas that we had specific questions for the public on. So any and all are welcome to join us on the 19th. Hi, come on in, Vivian.
And as you said, Autumn Ridge went okay.
And Autumn Ridge, I did the first sort of public outreach meeting with Autumn Ridge. You can just leave it on a table back there. Thank you. And they had, some great questions. I think it was a lot of people there's some of them that attend the senior center, but most don't. So I think it was great to get feedback from a ever widening set of people. So,
Good.
yeah.
Okay,
Were they pretty receptive to it or?
Yes, they all liked it. I guess I could be more specific. They all really liked it. They thought it was a great looking thing. One person said that they weren't quite aware of all the things that were happening here or that could happen in a new building, and so they had learned something. There was one. Yeah. I think many of the people that were original Autumn Ridge tenants participated in those public forums way back. So they were pleased to see the continued forward progress. There's one person who wasn't in favor of it, and it's good, that's fine. Yeah. So they were just not in favor of using taxpayer dollars to build a building in general. So
Thank you. And I talked to Katie this morning. I had talked to 4 people over the weekend. In regards to, I had the diagram, showed them to her and explained it to them. And I had some seniors, and then I had some other age group that would be seniors eventually. And they all said to me, first of all, they did need a second floor, and then it's like the building is too big. The space is too big, there's much too much, and it's not gonna pass the town meeting. And these are people from here that I had a discussion with over the weekend.
okay. No, that's good,
Just-
that's good to hear.
Like I said, some were seniors and some weren't, so I got both sides of it. And they said it's not gonna pass in the town of here, at the town meeting.
And did they seem like they would raise those concerns in a more public prior to town meeting? That is,
I
will they
don't
be,
think so. I don't think so.
like they won't be here on the 19th, or they won't be,
Well, no,
building
seniors,
committee
no,
meetings.
because one of them was a town person, now lives in Abington. So she's not here. And she was big in the town of here years ago. She used to hold office here. And then the other senior doesn't come here because he doesn't want to admit that he's a senior, so he doesn't come here. And then the other two were, right,
Okay.
I've discussed it with Mary about, the people don't want to come, they're not old enough,
Yeah.
Right.
so I mean,
So they're talking 2 floors. What is gonna be on the second floor? That the majority of seniors would be using? My
so
question.
the upstairs will have a card and game room. It will have an arts and crafts, a flexible office, a flexible meeting space, but an arts and crafts could go up there. It will have a fitness room with gym equipment. The wellness office will be up there. And second set of bathrooms.
What's going to be on the first floor?
So the first floor will have the cafe, cafe, library, sort of reception-y kind of area. It will have the offices. It will have a multi-purpose classroom, similar in size to the one, actually a little bit smaller than the one upstairs. And then the downstairs will also have the large multi-purpose room and the commercial kitchen and the equipment lending room. And a patio.
And an elevator.
Yes, there'll be an elevator. This particular architect is very sensitive to seniors, has a lot of expertise in developing and building with seniors in mind. So the stairs are quite wide. They're built with a 6-inch riser rather than a 7 or 8-inch riser. So they're
They
a
have
lot,
elevators going upstairs.
right, large elevators. They're a lot more gentle on the knees. A lot of people who cannot walk up a standard staircase can actually walk up these. And it is a great opportunity actually to build leg strength when current, like the standard staircase is too difficult on the joints. This is a little bit easier.
And just, and I didn't know this because I had initially, my initial thoughts were it's gonna be 1 story or, you know. And in talking to not only the architect that we selected, but also the other architects who were involved. Their sense of it was that there are significant cost settings from having 2 floors because you only need 1 roof. So the roof on a building is an extremely expensive part of the building.
As a foundation, yeah.
Yeah, so you get more building for less money in a way if you have 2 stories instead of 1 larger 1-story building. And the other thing that they thought was that for seniors getting around, if you only have, I don't know, 7,000 or 8,000 square feet on each floor, 7,000, let's say, it's a lot easier to navigate that, go up the elevator and walk between rooms or walk from the elevator to the room than it is to stare down a long corridor that's now has to be several hundred feet long, well, 150 feet long, let's say. So your actual time having to kind of maneuver around is less because you have less distance to travel. So those were 2 thoughts on why 2 stories instead of 1.
And I was
Yeah,
initially
I
a
can
fan of a
understand.
1-story building as well. But the sort of industry standard is once you get over 10,000 square feet, you are much better off. The users have a better experience. As Dennis said, there's less walking to do to enjoy the facility when it's on 2 levels.
I know you had said that the seniors is the largest amount population wise in the town of Ayer. You had said the seniors are the most. We are a small
Well,
town.
let me clarify. There are more seniors than there are children in the
Children.
school district.
Right.
There are more people aged 19 to 59 than there are people aged 60 plus.
60
So
plus.
middle-aged people are adults are
But-
still the biggest population, but when you're looking at those 2 end segments.
Right.
Yeah,
So
just-
the
I wanna
other,
make sure that's
the
clear.
other thing was that the town is a small town. It's not like Littleton's so big now. It used to be a small town. Littleton's grown with what's come into the town.
Mhm.
All right, not much more is gonna come into Air. There's not much space for anything else to come into Air. So it's still a small area. And somebody had brought up the fact that baby booms, is gonna be a lot lower, than it is now. So for the
Mm.
people to,
That's actually not true. The baby boomers are the biggest piece of the population. So the segment of our population that is a senior is going to grow in Air from now until 2060. We will get more and more and more seniors because the baby boomers, the oldest of which are 77. So their age, I believe, 55 to 67, they have a pretty wide band. So for the next several decades, there will be more and more and more seniors in
Yeah.
town. It's
I
not,
just,
it's not less,
So-
more and more.
Yeah,
They're showing the 4 people over the,
yeah.
Holiday
No,
weekend,
it's great that you're talking to them.
I talked to Katie this morning about it.
Yeah,
and
They like
just,
it.
But a lot of people would say, what do we need with such a large senior center? And there's a lot of room, and like everything else that the towns and cities do, a lot of wasted space.
Mhm.
I've seen it in the school department, a lot of wasted space. And it cost a fortune to build those schools.
And I think that'll be an important part of the public input process, is to see amongst lots of different groups of people what their impressions are. And I do still wanna plan, maybe we could do that for August. A senior center trip. I think Wilbraham would be a lovely facility to see, or maybe
Where?
North Andover would be better. North Andover would probably be better to go.
I never heard of the.
Wilbraham, where's that?
Wilbraham's out west.
Yeah.
North Andover, it's close. North Andover Senior Center would be very similar in size to what we're talking about. And I think sometimes, at least for me, I have a hard time, you say 14,000 square feet and you're like, wow, that's huge.
It's
But
not
if you were to walk into a 14,000 square foot building that's totally tailored to things you might want to do, you might be surprised how not too big it feels.
We talked about that a long time ago.
Yes, so let me make a
How
note.
big is the one that they're building in Littleton, you know?
That I don't know off the top of my head.
Cause I know they're building a two-story there. And they got the outside all done, now they're working on the inside.
Where is it?
Where is it?
I haven't got to go in there yet, but I
It's
did.
where the,
What's the address?
old
Charlotte
church,
Street,
yeah,
it's right there with the old senior center. used to be.
Yeah.
Oh, it's down on the
Where
corner?
the-
No.
On
Where the
two-way?
school, the old school.
No, that
Shattuck
building
Street?
project on
Shattuck
two-way
Street.
just before.
Shattuck Street.
Shattuck Street.
No. No,
Shattuck
no.
Street,
the town-
was there for years.
Where the town
I
office
went to
is at.
grammar school there.
You went to grammar school there? Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, anyway, I didn't mean.
So, it's great that,
Oh,
it's
that's
great
right,
that
you
you're
went to
doing that. I would,
Littleton.
it's important for, it's early in the process to hear these things and to understand what people's concerns are going to be. And we'll see, ultimately, I think we all understand that at town meeting, you have to,
Yeah, because I know as a senior, every time they came into Littleton with schools, I used to say, hold it down. I didn't even care what it was. I didn't want to spend any more money on schools. My kids have already been through. But now they say senior center, I think a little bit more like, well, that might be nice. So it costs a few dollars more. So it depends on where you are in the, if there's more young people,
There are more seniors in the town of Air than there are children.
and you gotta get the changes out there to
Yeah, but
vote.
it's their parents that are gonna
Agreed.
say.
It's
you're
about
taking-
25%.
It's
you're
not,
taking-
What's the
yeah,
population?
it's not either
about
or.
8,500, it's about 25% of the population, the seniors, one out of every four
What's the
people.
population of Littleton?
It's a little bit, I wanna say 10, 5, 11.
Oh, it's going up?
Yeah.
Well, of course it's
Harvard?
gone up.
What about Harvard?
Yeah,
Katie, what's the
like
population
6,000,
in Harvard?
Harvard's.
6,000, 7,000
Isn't it?
maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah, right about 6 or 7,000.
Yeah.
That's
And
going up too.
Townsend?
I'm on the town, is about
What's the
10,000,
population in Townsend?
10,000.
10,000. And we're 8,000, right?
They're what?
10,000 in Townsend and we're 8,000.
So, I mean, there is just like how senior centers are run and operated, there is a whole gamut of things.
Yeah.
So the Townsend Senior Center is larger. I'd have to go ask them exactly what their
Yeah,
seating square
and they
footage
have
is.
money in Townsend, help
Right.
businesses in Townsend.
Surely, Air has more business than Townsend has, actually. But you're right, there were private funds there involved. I think that would be an interesting comparison to ask the architect to put together for us, which would be neighboring towns, population sizes. But again, they're all funded differently. The tax structures in each of these towns are different. So it's not always an apples to apples comparison.
Right.
Yeah.
And interestingly, for Townsend, and I did visit, it's, if you buy that way, they were very welcoming. Like 7 or 8 years, well, maybe more, close to 10 years after they built their new senior center, they ended up having to add on an additional space in back to accommodate larger gatherings because So the initial cost of the senior center was then added to, maybe a little less than a decade later.
Well, isn't Townsend one also a community center? Isn't
It's,
it both?
it's attached to the library, or they're part of the same complex, but I don't know operationally how.
It is
closely.
not, operationally, it is not a seniors, it's not a community center. The senior center operates as a standalone senior center. The library operates as a standalone library. There is a large meeting hall in the middle that both of those share. The senior center has priority usage of it between 9 AM and 3 PM. And the library has priority usage of it from 5 to 9 PM. And then if neither one of those organizations use it, needed at a particular time slot, a community organization can rent it out. They have a very specific policy about what they do, unless it has changed in the last 2 years, but that's what their very specific policies. There are lots of community groups that meet in that room. But they meet in that room as spaces available between the two that share it.
Okay, so it would be like, I call it the multi-purpose room over there. Then we can use it and they can use it.
Right. Yeah, I'm trying to look at their Littleton's plans right now to see if I can find it.
But I would encourage seniors to, again, talk to, and just kind of get feedback on what people's concerns are, and obviously we'll answer them. And encourage people to go to the official meeting to raise these concerns so that we can.
But I have another question. When do you think in your own minds, we are going to be saying, we're putting it on Groton Road or we're putting it on Bishop Road? It's gonna get done, it's gonna get started. How many more months, years do you think it's gonna take? A guess, come on, you're the committee.
So at our next meeting at the end of July, we should have a better sense of our estimated utilities costs. I have no idea if the test borings will be done and analyzed by then. And then by that meeting, there is also supposed to be work from the architect on how it could be, how the building could be situated. And so if any one of those things, utilities, like if there was something that was a dead end about the utilities or the soil or the siting, that would eliminate one site. But otherwise, I think we will have sort of a choice of two. And then I think the committee, as well as some public input, but I mean, I don't think that's gonna be more than a couple of months at the most, right? I mean, just.
So your estimate maybe by Christmas, we'll just say Christmas, you'll say, we're gonna put it on Bishop Road and this is what it's gonna look like.
Yes, definitely by Christmas.
By Christmas, you figured that
Mhm.
we'll have a yes or no. And we can start putting, like I say, the shovel to the ground.
So once you decide where it's gonna go, then you can get an official cost estimate.
Yeah.
So that's the next step. And then it goes to town meeting. And the town says that and that could be October meeting, it could be a special town meeting. That will be determined by the timeline. So the recommendation of the building committee, then what did I just say?
And where it's gonna
Then-
locate it.
Right, then the cost estimation, then town meeting, and then after town meeting would approve it, then it goes out to bid for the construction drawings and the construction itself, and that takes a couple of months. Cause we're not talking about where electrical goes in the
So
wall
after
yet.
all this that we've gone through for, we'll say 2 years,
Mhm.
and the town says, no, we don't wanna spend that money, it's done,
Yes.
Well, so
that's done.
Well, no, not necessarily. So that's part of the importance of public input. So if I went to, like yesterday's meeting, I would say it was 95% thumbs up, this is awesome. Now, let's say it had been 95%, this is preposterous, we don't want this, right? I would say when we explored Peroni Park, that was like a 50-50 split, right? So you don't know. everything I'm hearing, a sample size of one, but everything I'm hearing so far. Far more positive than negative. That's our job as a committee. To hear the public input as we're going along and to determine if minor or major renovations are needed.
And who's paying for the purchase of the land itself?
There is no purchase of land. Both of these sites are town owned.
But if at town meetings. That is, it's important that as we move forward with the momentum and the public understanding of this process. That when the vote comes, the vote comes. If you lose that vote. And on the floor at town meeting,
Okay.
it's difficult to regain the momentum and the public awareness. So on the floor at town meeting. It's how the decisions are supposed to be made. My hope is that between now and that point. That the process not become sidetracked. That is, it not become, we can't do it.
Okay.
We will bring something to the floor at town meeting, which we feel will be workable and is important for the city, town of Ayer to have.
What is the average age of the people that go to town meetings?
That I don't know. I think that probably varies wildly based on what's on the warrant.
I know, yeah, because I know special town meetings, if,
Like
lucky
we
if they
have
have a quorum.
Yeah.
For a special time.
Yeah,
Depends on what the topic is. If it was for the schools, they didn't usually
Right.
typically have a problem. If it was for Devon's, they always had a problem getting people.
Right, so, but I've asked, you know, I mean, because I see.
You know, you might
middle-aged, I don't
inquire
see-
with the town manager's office. They might be able to answer that question, because they would keep.
I mean,
those
I'm for
statistics.
the new buildings, it's not that I'm not for it, but just listening to
Yeah.
everybody.
oh, yeah, it's
It's
great.
interesting.
It's great to
Yeah.
understand
Yeah.
where the concerns are.
So my expectation will be that. The building committee has done what they've tried to be thoughtful, careful, considerate. Tuned in work to determine a site and a building plan. Then it will go to the public, who will be looking at it from a different perspective. There will be maybe some minor, maybe some major suggestions, and then the building committee will weigh those. And then incorporate the ones that they think are feasible, because, you know, there might be something that's wild. Just because someone suggests something doesn't mean you can always incorporate it, but you take it into account and try and use it as a way to understand the broader sense of the town. It could go to town meeting and pass, it could go to town meeting and fail. Then it would be on the select board to determine whether or not the building committee has some sense of what went wrong and what changes they would need to make, and whether or not they would want to regroup and try again. But obviously, the goal is not to go with town meeting with something that's not going to succeed. The
Right.
goal is to design something thoughtfully, hear people out in advance, understand what the concerns are, address as many of them as possible, and go to town meeting with something that the town can get behind.
Yeah.
And the town is a really diverse group of people.
So
So,
you would like to get kind of unanimous approval.
that will
But
never happen.
that's right.
That will never happen.
I have given up that naive notion. But if you get 60-40 in favor or 70-30, that would, to my way of thinking now, be a tremendous accomplishment. Anything above that would be gravy. So. And again, I would encourage everyone to listen to those who have concerns. But individual concerns will not have, or should not have veto power over the larger good that will come from this. You know, it's the greater good for the greater number is kind of what we're shooting for here. So. Okay. So it's building outreach, so on to. Votes for officers.
You have to leave in
I
a
do.
few minutes, right? Yep.
So in keeping with, kind of like the general sense that we want to, diversify the activities of the board and include more people in it. And in keeping with the policies that we adopted regarding, the offices of the board, it's election time for board officers. So my hope was that we would elect new officers for the coming year. And then kind of everybody would change their responsibilities. So my thought was that I'd like to nominate Mary as chair.
So wait a minute, so we need a chair, what positions do we need to know?
Chair, vice chair,
Yeah.
clerk.
Oh, Dennis, your chair now?
I am chair now.
My opposition, Dennis, and I told you, was that you called me and said you wanted the slate of officers to be Mary as
Wait,
chair.
I'm sorry, okay,
Okay.
let's answer
well,
Katie's question first.
I think the appropriate
Mhm.
way to handle it would be to ask if anyone is interested in each of them and let each person describe rather than the existing chair proposing a slate.
Yes,
Oh, yeah, I wasn't suggesting that I propose a slate.
Well, you just made a
Okay.
motion you started to make a motion before she interrupted you, so,
but.
Right, but it wasn't for a full slate.
oh, okay.
I gotta go. So
Okay, so let's,
So the question is, are you interested in running for an?
I think I had already expressed my interest to Dennis,
Okay,
just recently as well as in the past. But
And I had two,
Okay.
but Dennis had his slate already set.
okay, so I think what we have though here is two people who are interested in being chair, which is wonderful. So if you have to leave, and
Yeah.
it's been lovely conversation up to this point, but if you have to leave, then I think we should table this until the next meeting, because how would you have an election without the,
well, you couldn't.
right?
well, you know, whatever, it is, you've got three other people here. What I said is I have, and regardless of whatnot, I do have another commitment and I'm gonna drive.
Okay.
I am interested in it. That being said, I've said from day one or whatnot,
Yeah.
that I'm here to support the board in any way, shape, or form. So,
Okay, all right, so we'll take, so. So Mary remains interested, Marge, you are interested?
I
as well?
have said it, I've been on longer and I didn't like how it went when I talked to you. You had the board already pick the officers.
All right, so.
You
Okay,
told
thank
me
you.
you wanted Mary, you were gonna be clerk. Mary could be chair and I would be vice.
Well, I apologize if I didn't mean to assign those things. I was attempting to convey what I thought would be a workable board going forward, given that I wanted to step down as chair. And that you were already serving as clerk. And I talked with Bobby as well. And obviously we couldn't talk to Janine. So I apologize if I was not attempting to tell people what the board ought to be. I was proposing what I thought would be a workable solution in order to change the responsibilities that were currently on the board. So Mary has expressed some interest, which I supported for chair. You will also express interest in being the chair. And we'll bring it up, so it will be on next month's agenda. Okay,
Does anyone want to specifically express interest in the vice chair position? Or the clerk position, like just so that everyone can be giving some thought to it. I mean, there's only four of us, but
that's
like,
right, we're running out of bodies.
I mean, are you interested in being clerk, you said?
Yes,
Okay, So. You know, it seems to me that the real discussion is about who will be chair, and then hopefully whoever isn't chair is willing to slot into the vice chair role. That would fill.
Well, I think, you know, my point was, I've been here. I've been in every meeting,
No, I am,
and I told you that night when you said it to me, I was like, you overlooked. You just, you
yes,
overlooked.
and again, it's not, my view of it was not dispositive, and just to apologize publicly. At the time that I was thinking about this, I did not feel that it was something that you would have wanted to do. That, and again, it was a presumption, it was wrong, again, it was a presumption. It was wrong. Up to that time, it didn't seem to me that you would want to be chair.
All right, so I think we have two clear nominees.
Yep.
And how do you guys want to handle? Do you guys want to talk about what your goals or vision are for the board? Would that be an acceptable way to do it? Do you just want to blindly, like, I think we should all agree on, you
Well,
guys should all agree.
well, we can't,
On what the
Yes.
process is
well,
for next month.
I mean, given how I mishandled it initially.
Yeah.
We will need to handle it in a formal and rigorous fashion. So I think what will have to happen is we have two potential candidates. At next meeting, their candidacies would have to be nominated and then seconded. And then the discussion would ensue as to which candidate, you know, the board members present, assuming there's a quorum, see, and then we would have to vote. So those candidates who will be nominated, and then that nomination will be seconded, and then the discussion would take place, and then a formal vote will occur. And that's how, for not only the chair, but also for the vice chair and the clerk. So I think that's. So I would encourage, you know, obviously Mary, that I've had some conversation with, but also Marge, to give some thought to what they want to see for the future and why they as chair would be. You know. And then we'll go from there. And again, I would be willing, I mean, the options are highly limited. I would be willing to serve as clerk, but that will need to be, I would have to be nominated, and that nomination would have to be seconded.
Right.
Right.
Yep, follow the same process,
That's
yeah,
right.
yep, okay, all right.
When is the next meeting?
It'll be the second
Tuesday.
Tuesday of August. Which would be. let me just pull up
Meeting's adjourned.
No, meeting's not adjourned yet.
Not
Um,
adjourned.
It's the 13th. I think we still have public input.
That's right.
Going right to what you are discussing right now. Have you given, number one, any consideration to expanding your board or asking if there's anybody else in the town of Ayer that would be interested in being on the board? I mean, if you're just gonna, okay. If you're just gonna recycle people every year, you're gonna get the same old ideas, the same old attitudes, the same old discussions, where you need to consider about bringing in new blood. Maybe there's somebody out there that would really like to be a member of the board, but don't know how to do it, or don't even know there's a board. So,
So there's a process that the town dictates for all of the boards, which is you're appointed to either a 2 or a 3-year term. And at the end of your term, you are asked by the town manager's office if you would like to re-up, if you would like to renew.
right,
the town of Ayer currently does not have any term limits on their boards and committee members. Other towns, some towns do, some towns don't. The town of Ayer does not. So a single person can re-up as many times as they want. But when someone steps down, that does create a vacancy on the board. And so then that is advertised to the town manager's office, on the town website, on the town social media, that there are openings and vacancies. And then when we have had vacancies, I've advertised them in the newsletter as well in the past. And then someone who's interested in serving on a town board or committee submits a letter of interest. I mean, it can literally just be an email that says, I'm interested in this position. It doesn't have to be an essay, to the town manager's office. Then they would let the current chair know, and then the chair, that board can recommend or not recommend that person to the select board for appointment. So it's a
What
pretty
does the chair
specific
do
process.
that the others don't?
What?
I mean, why did he think Mary for the chair and not Bob or
It's just personal opinion,
personal?
personal opinion.
It does not matter how good they are or how dependable they are. That's not part, I mean,
So
Well,
this
it
board,
does just because I like you.
no, what I'm just saying is this board votes as a democracy. So the election is a democracy of who? Every person on this board could have an opinion of who they would like to see as the next chair, but that's just personal opinion.
And
What Dennis wants as
What-
personal
what-
opinion
what-
isn't what will necessarily what will happen. What will happen is the official process of
Yeah,
election.
but wouldn't it be better off if, as of right now, wouldn't it be better off if somebody said, who would like to be a chairman?
That's what I just said.
But no, he already said her. He already
Well-
made his statement.
Right, that's,
No,
that-
he made his statement. Now, if it was me, I would be very upset.
right, that's why I stopped him and said, no, that's not the correct process. The correct process is to express,
But,
to allow each
but,
person.
okay, now you got only 1, 2, 3, 4 more votes. He's already got voted. So if she's gonna vote for herself. And now there's 2 votes for one person.
You
And there's
can't
only
vote.
one.
I cannot vote.
And most
What?
committees do take the next
You
oldest
can't
member.
vote, Katie?
If you've been on,
Yeah.
Katie
That I
can't
don't,
vote?
that I don't know. Do you-
selectmen do. They just, and recreation, they just go around.
She can't vote.
She
No,
can't
some
vote.
No.
Some do.
2 and 2.
Yeah, I
They
actually
just
don't.
go and they
that, yeah.
actually change seats.
Yeah,
every year.
but I
They
do think they
vote.
have to express, I do think they have to
The
express
time is
it.
not always a slip of the
I
mind.
haven't,
what's that?
no, I mean, I'm saying for the select, board.
Slip of the.
I don't think it's an
That's-
automatic.
No, it is.
switch and
It's an automatic.
okay, yeah, I haven't looked in enough to
I
what other
watched
boards do
meetings.
to know. Yeah, I'm just saying, I don't know. I'm not doubting you. I'm just saying I don't know.
I don't know.
Because
And what
I don't
happens
know.
if there's a tie on
I
the
don't want
vote?
none of. I don't want none of it.
I don't know.
But, and it was unfair that Dennis calls me up.
That's why I said.
And said-
So I think
For the
we're
friends
trying to
of
move
the
into
senior.
public
I said, I'll
input.
help you,
Gotcha.
I'll volunteer
So,
and help you, but I don't want
is
to.
there-
be
That was decided.
Because,
What-
yeah,
I guess I was trying to reiterate, Marge, that
Yeah.
it can't be decided that way.
Okay.
That is not the
Okay.
right way. for
But
it to
it
be
was
decided. It
decided.
needs.
It was
That was not
decided.
my,
I got the phone call.
it was, that is, and again, this is for public consumption too.
I,
My opinion as chair during the vote does not count for anything more
down
than
the road,
anybody else's vote.
that would
that
know
is-
that.
The chair has an administrative kind of role to play. But my opinion or my view of things or matters of who should be the next chair or any other matter, my vote doesn't count any more than anybody else's
Anybody
vote,
else's, yeah. Yeah.
all right? So, you know, I don't get to pick things. I mean, I get to express my view of how I think it ought to go. But I could easily lose that in half, easily lose that view 3-1 or 4-1, right? So, but there are other matters for public input that people,
Don't answer.
Yeah,
Don't answer.
Nancy Jaconi, Pond Street. I have a couple of new items, but I'll go to the old ones first. On your statement on board meeting members missing 3 consecutive meetings.
Yeah.
Does that mean physical attendance? Can they attend by phone if they're not there? Can they do a Zoom?
Yes. We could,
So
and that would
actually,
count as as being in the meeting,
any of those?
that's right.
Okay. How far in advance do you need to be notified that a board member is not attending? In other words, I'm a board member.
Yeah.
I woke up this morning with the flu. I'm not gonna come to the meeting. But I've also been through chemotherapy. And I have good days and I have bad days. I went through for a year. And there's just consecutive months that I'm pretty much in bed.
So I think in that case, there's a piece, does anyone have the policies? It talks about unless there are extenuating circumstances. And then I think that becomes a judgment call between the board member. Do I have the energy to give? Am I doing the best service to this board at this moment of my health? Am I able to continue
Okay,
on?
so the health is determined by the board.
Well, no,
So-
I'm not,
Not by
no,
the board member.
I'm
no,
just-
no, I'm just saying, I'm saying it's not as black and white. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk.
He's saying that was-
I'm just gonna, I'm just going to read the policy, right? In the event of any member being absent for 3 consecutive meetings, except for reasons of health or extenuating circumstances as reported to the chairperson in advance of the meeting, the council shall request the resignation of that member through the select board.
How much notice?
In
has to be
advance,
Given.
in advance of,
What is
any-
in advance, 10 minutes before the meeting,
perhaps,
2 days before the meeting?
perhaps.
I think that should be clarified.
Well, I don't think you always are gonna have any dramatic advance warning. I mean, obviously, the more notice you can give someone, the better, but sometimes things come up. I think that would be dependent upon the reason why they were missing the meeting.
Mhm. Okay, the other thing I have is 2 suggestions. Excuse me, I didn't mean to pop on you. I think personally, I think it would be a good idea for the van to be available on election days to take people back and forth to vote, and for town hall meetings, or special town hall meetings. Because a lot of people don't attend because they either don't have the transportation or they're not capable. Like somebody in a wheelchair or a walker that can't walk 2 miles to town hall.
Right.
Or something like that.
So we've always been available for election day. If someone would like to schedule a ride to go over to vote, they can schedule that like any other ride. It's from their house to
Maybe it
town hall.
needs
back
to
in.
be noticed because a lot of people don't know that. They think it's just
Needs to be a
regular
newsletter
things like
more.
shopping
more than
and
this.
doctor's appointments.
Okay, that's a good
cetera.
point. I can put that in. And then as far as town meeting, we typically always run the van for town meeting and we do advertise that. At the April town meeting, Sam was on vacation and I didn't yet have the per diem driver in place. But for the 2 years previous to that, both town meetings, we have run the van.
And it should be a month in advance to let people know that it's
Right.
available. There's not enough
Absolutely.
notification
Yeah,
that it's available.
So the town meetings are typically the 3rd Monday of the month. So it would be included in that month's newsletter. So people would have between 3 and 4 weeks notice.
So October should be in August, September, or October. The fall time
Space is
meeting.
at a premium in the newsletter. I don't know that I would advertise 3 months in
No.
advance. I think the
Well,
month that it's in is
it-
adequate.
What is it, the 3rd week in October?
It's
you
always the
said?
third Monday. Yeah,
Third Monday.
third Monday
So
in
that gives you
October, and I
2
think
weeks to-
third Monday in April.
Yeah, to notify.
That's what I'm saying is
I think there's
for the
plenty of
current,
notified, yeah.
the current, with as long as it's in that month's newsletter, it gives people between 3 and 4 weeks to know that that's an option and make a plan.
I know there was an accident did you have more, Nancy?
What, I just
I know.
wanted to clarify one thing. Are you saying for annual town meetings, or were you
Yeah.
saying for
Oh,
all
all
boards
town.
and
Even
all
a
boards
special
and
town.
committees?
Special, annual, and if they wanna, if there's another meeting that they want to go to, that's important. And is important to the seniors
To get there.
to get there.
Right.
Then, I mean, there is absentee voting, I understand that, but they can't get to the meetings.
So, so for election day and the 2 annual town meetings, I'm 100% on board. That's a service we're already offering. I'm starting to get a little fuzzy on the other town meetings. So like if Conservation Commission is meeting tomorrow night, do you need
That's just
something
a
like
meeting.
that? Or,
But I mean,
Or
it's like
doesn't
right now you've got the building commission.
right,
There may be other people that wanna go,
yeah,
but they have no transportation, no way to get there.
right.
And it might be nice to offer van service for your meetings.
Mhm.
That you might
Yeah.
get more of a response
Yeah.
for people who can't get there normally.
Need another van. Talking about special town meetings, if the senior comes up, it's gonna be a special town meeting before October, so then you'd want transportation and naturally. you're
Any
gonna have-
town meetings we offer van for.
Yeah.
I don't think it's realistic to offer the van for all board and committee meetings.
No,
because
she's
there's
not
one
referring to
every
that.
single night.
She's
Yeah,
not
that's
referring
why-
to
yeah,
that.
that's why I was just
No.
clarifying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing I have is in your budget for next year, I think it would be nice to budget in flowers for outside. It's not much. The last time I went and bought them, it was like less than $60. But this year and last year were donations. Okay, from me and from Dot. But I think it should be a budget item to make sure that the outside looks nice. People enjoy the flowers, and I think that's something that should go in the budget.
I can certainly check in with town hall. The budget for next summer is already been submitted. I can check in with town hall on how they allocate funds, because I know they have some flowers. A lot of those are donated as well. But I will check in with town hall on what sort of funding mechanism they use. It's certainly.
Because there
checking
still
into.
should be, with donation from Dot, there still should be about $45 still left for a donation.
And
Those donations are tracked, yes.
to what extent is that housing authority versus senior center?
No,
Or is
I
there some-
already asked them about that. When. Cause I asked them and. Somebody else asked them about the weeding and everything. Well, what was done outside the building. Was requested and done. By Karen. The responsibility for anything outside the front of the building. COA.
That's, I will have a conversation with Ken. I don't rent the outside of the building. I rent the inside of the building. Anything outside that front door is not my responsibility. So if there's confusion about it, I need to clarify it with Ken, because when you rent from the studs in. So, that's a really good conversation to have with him. I'll follow up with him.
And I have one last thing.
Go. Quick.
In the
Every day.
I know, noticed in this month's newsletter. for van service. It says in there. For like when Sam does the trips and everything. Or even takes you to a doctor's appointment, it says no tipping allowed. That's not right. If people want to tip, they should be able to tip, and if people don't want to tip, they don't have to. But saying something like that is not right and it's not fair.
It's against the fiscal and ethical policies of the state of Massachusetts to accept tips for a job that Sam is hired for at a fair and unionized wage for. And if Sam accepts tips of over $50 per person or per group per year, he is in violation of the state ethical standards, and he is subject to immediate termination. So if you like Sam and you care about Sam and you want him to continue to drive, you will understand that he is paid a fair wage. He is not to be tipped.
Okay, if you're gonna have that in a newsletter, I would recommend that you, after that, say no tipping allowed per state regulation.
I probably won't
Okay.
write it
you
in
see what I'm
again.
saying?
No, I hear what you're saying. I probably won't write it in again. I don't think it's necessary to write it in again, but from time to time, when we're doing updates on, you know, 1 month I might talk about what meal policies there are. Next month it's transportation policies, things like whatever I put in the letter. Next time it comes up, I think that's a great suggestion. I probably won't repeat it again in this upcoming.
I had a question, Minnie. Now Sam takes us to the beach, right?
Mhm.
And he has to have lunch. Okay?
Mhm.
Is it against the rules that we buy his lunch for him? Let us say that I say to the girls, would everybody like to give me $3 so we can buy Sam his lunch? And I say, Sam, this is for your lunch, for not for
Mhm.
driving us, but for your lunch.
Mhm.
Is that against the rules?
I mean, that's a grayer area, whether that's a tip or not, but I would also tell you that if Sam incurs.
But would that be appropriate, is what I'm asking you.
I would say that's not necessary, because any expense Sam incurs while driving the van is a work expense, and he can submit a receipt to me and I can reimburse him for it. So I don't think there's any need to do that.
I know, but I mean, let's say that because you say we can't tip him, that's how we would feel like we want to thank him for driving us.
We're
Thank you.
treating him, we're
Huh?
not
Just
tipping
thank
him, we're treating him.
So what you're saying is we can't do it.
So here's the thing. What I'm saying is that it would be very easy if riders are tipping him for him over the course of a year to be in violation of state ethical standards. Being in violation of state ethical standards is grounds for immediate termination. Why would you do that? That's my point.
No, that's why I asked you. It's, I know,
There's a dollar limit.
so we can't do it. What you're saying is it's still the same idea.
It's not necessary. Sam is paid a fair wage that is.
So we want to treat you to lunch, we can't do that.
So you can't tip a person over $50.
That's what I do.
over the course of the whole year. And I can't be accepting $49.95 from you and $49.95 from you and $49.95 from you. That's also unethical. So
And do you understand?
those are the rules set out by the state, and it's designed because if you are exceeding that amount, it is actually deemed to be bribing a government official. Whether or not we think Sam is the same as bribing Robert, the town manager, is irrelevant. Those are the rules that we all agree. I have to sit through an hour and 20-minute super dry training every single year, where I attest that I will not receive tips or donations or goods and services. You can't even bring me, if you bring me a fruit basket at Christmas time that's over a $50 value, I have to say, Mary Ellen and Dennis and everybody here, here is a basket for everyone to share. This is not for me. Those are the rules. Like, that's literally the example in the training. Every single, I think it's every year, is it every other year? We have to attest to that and knowing that it is subject to disciplinary
On the
action.
newsletters that you do put it in,
Tip on the ground, let it
that
fall.
you state that it's a state ethical
That's what I do.
regulation.
I,
Because
People
people,
lost that. Let's see that.
there's got a lot of people that are taking that the wrong way.
Yeah.
And
They feel like he's going out of their way or.
I think it's
Those
important
parents knew
to put this in
I had
broader
them all
context.
day long. They gave me wine.
That is,
Yeah.
these rules apply to all state employees, town employees. Because imagine a situation where you have a grievance against the town
Waitresses
accountant.
don't get paid, so they get tips.
You just don't like the town accountant for whatever reason. And you found out that the town accountant has been taken to lunch by a private consulting firm that wants to do business with the town, and the private consulting firm has picked up the tab for that lunch every time the town accountant has gone out to lunch with them.
But they. What I'm trying to say is that it should be made clearer, not just say, no, don't do it. Give a
don't do it.
reason. Give a reason.
Okay.
Because a lot of people aren't taking that way.
Okay.
They were saying. The sledgehammer is down,
It is
no
not,
kidding.
it is not punitive in any way. It is meant to uphold high ethical standards
People have,
for those who are paid by taxpayer dollars.
but people have to know that. And if it's not.
Anybody-
and I'm glad you're asking. So if you're hearing that people are confused about it, I hope that you'll clarify it with them.
I will, but I still think it needs, when you put that in the next newsletter. It should state.
Right.
Per state ethics, so that if somebody has a question about it. They can come to like you and say, why? Is this unethical?
Well, and you also have access to the state ethics board. That is, any citizen of the Commonwealth can contact the state ethics board and ask them why those ethical policies are.
And it'll take forever to get through the state.
So what you're saying is if you get a Christmas gift of a fruit basket that costs $75, you can't accept that as a Christmas present.
That's right.
I cannot accept it. I should not accept that because that could be perceived as bribing a government official. The way that is handled, because we understand that not everybody understands that rule, is you can receive it and make it available to the public as well. So if someone, let's say, I don't know, let's say Neshoba Park came in, because they are kind and generous with us. If they came in with a big fruit basket and said, thanks so much for, working with us and whatever, and then I would be at lunch, I'd be like, you get an orange, you get an orange, you get an orange, because I can't receive it and keep it for myself.
Are you talking $50?
$50.
What about $20?
But if you give her $20 and I give her $20, she still can't accept it.
But that's
That's getting more than 50. She's
So-
getting $50
So
from people.
So this is where it gets real tricky, because I don't have any way, so just like Supreme Court justices, and they're far more important than we are, I'm not at all trying to equate the two. But Supreme Court justices have to line out every single thing that they've received, they have to submit their income tax returns, they have to talk about where they've gotten donations, right?
Right.
I can't possibly do that, right? There's no way I can do that. So if somebody brings in a $20 fruit basket during the holidays, I don't think that's a big deal. I really
Okay.
don't think that's a big deal because that's
But if it's
considered to be,
$50, it
but
would-
the limit is $50.
Okay.
But the issue with tipping is if you're going to physical therapy 3 days a week and you are giving him $2 or $3 on top of that 50 weeks a year, you've given him $150 in a tip. And not only have you given them, we have 450 rides a month. So can you see how if you're tipping him, you're tipping him, how all of a sudden that could really get out of hand? And there is no mechanism in place for tracking what is a fare and what is a tip. And that is why it is just best to avoid that.
So maybe there should be a general statement that no gifts of any kind or or tips of any kind can be given, period. Rather than saying, oh, I got a $40 fruit basket, let me get it. But the fruit basket was given to you. So that's your $40 limit for the year. So if somebody gives you a fruit basket on Easter, Christmas, Thanksgiving times 40.
So that would be unethical. That would be
I
unethical for
think
me
it
to
should-
accept a $40 fruit basket from the same person.
To
3
me, it
times a year.
would be unethical for you to accept it at all, period.
That's what I'm saying is that's why it
Regardless
is.
of the $50,
Right.
just make it unethical, period.
I think we're
because-
getting into
Yeah,
the weeds
I
here.
think
We're
we're,
getting too
yeah.
deep.
So just and Nancy, you're asking some extremely insightful questions. The paid employees of the town or the state do not have their opinion about these policies, so there is outside their control. That is, the state legislature and the state ethics commission decides what is the case,
Mhm.
and then they are required to follow it.
Right,
If you have specific questions about why that is the case, or where in the gray areas, which way does it fall? Those questions are most properly addressed to the State Ethics Commission, because they can take you through the nuances of the policy and why it exists as such, because it doesn't exist just for the purposes of the senior center in the town of Ayer.
no, I'm not talking about that, I'm
Right.
saying,
So whatever Katie may or may not decide that's not determinative. What's determinative is what the State Ethics Commission, and my sense of it is from your questions, is that you want something determinative.
yes,
Yes, and so those questions should properly be addressed to the State Ethics Commission.
well. If it's an ethical question for the town of Ayer. And my understanding, basic, no lawyer. Bathroom attorney, if you wanna call it that. That the state has a law. That you have to meet minimum. But you can make it tougher. If necessary, as long as you don't go below what the state law is.
Yeah.
It's just like getting a speeding ticket. The state law says 30 miles an hour. Well, if you're going 60. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm. So and we should probably move on. I wanted to,
I'm
I
sorry.
apologize. We wanted to do the mission statement for the COA that is separate from.
Yeah, that was gonna go on there, but we did skip the missions. Barbara also had public input, so we probably need to do both of those things or take the.
No,
Yes.
The only thing was, I was just gonna mention about the newsletter. I know this month there was a problem, but it definitely should be out before. The 27th, 28th of the night before, and not the second of.
I
of the month, second or third of the month.
100% agree. Us being closed for what was supposed to be 2 days of flooring ended up being 3.5 days. And I didn't have access to my computer during that time. That put
Do
me
you have-
personally
Do you have a
behind.
backup for your computer that you could have used another computer to
No.
make up?
No,
Or taking it to a printer?
No,
it
she had-
wasn't,
she had-
it wasn't done
ready
yet because I didn't have access. The computer got wiped clean and totally reloaded. While
You
the
don't have
2
a
days
backup?
ago.
There's no
I don't
backup?
have a backup access to all of the files, no. So I accept full responsibility for this month being out
Yeah,
late.
no, it just,
And then it was done, and then the printer broke. and that was like the perfect storm of things that went wrong that week. Delayed flooring project, delayed computer repairs, and then a broken
And
printer.
a week off.
So,
It's just-
Yeah, I mean, all of
Exactly.
that happening in that
Yep.
week. So, yes, but I agree with you. It
Yeah.
does need to come out a few days before the end of the month.
Okay, that's it.
And on the COA mission statement,
I think it should be put on in August. It's already almost 4.
You ready to go?
okay, and just so,
Okay, I hope he's here. I'm ready
so
to
you
go.
want to, from the ground up,
Keep going after him, Nancy.
draft so it's not gonna be it's not gonna be a revised mission statement, it's a new mission statement. That is, we haven't previously had one. For the COA
I don't
board.
think the board has one.
So what existed before was a basic 1 or 2 line mission statement
The senior.
Thank you.
for the board
No, we don't.
as the senior center all together.
Okay.
Because remember when I came on, there was a lot of trouble differentiating the board from the staff and the operations of the senior center.
Yep.
So they were talking about wanting to redo the mission statement.
Right.
And in the meantime, at the same, as we were going through drafts, and I had suggested the draft that's currently found in the newsletter. There was some discussion about whether that was truly a mission statement or whether it was too wordy to be a mission statement. And then I had to give a presentation and I said, I'm gonna use this until in the newsletter as the mission statement of the senior center,
Right.
until the COA board tells me something different.
Right.
And so then, lots of changes happened on the board, as people came on and off. And so that just never got tied up. So I think you guys could decide if you want a separate COA board mission statement that would appear in the COA board section. I'm very comfortable with what's there. It is labeled as a COA board mission statement. It should probably be in the senior center, in the newsletter on the first page, just as a description of what the senior center does, rather than a mission statement. That would be my suggestion.
Is
The only one that bothers me about that one, Katie, is that it says seniors and not Ayer seniors, Ayer residents.
Right, yep.
So, but Katie,
But I do think the board needs its own mission.
okay, so what's in the newsletter now? Katie will, for lack of a better term, co-opt as the senior center mission statement.
Right.
And then we will, from the ground up, construct a separate COA board mission
Yep.
statement.
And I've been looking at,
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Because what's in the newsletter now is what I use at the top of my
Right.
annual report,
Yeah.
Right.
That's a description of what we do here.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I think they could be the same, but I also think it would be very reasonable.
but I think
To
it
have
needs
them
to
be separate.
describe what we do
I
as a board to support.
Yep.
The
It's-
center
it's-
I think that would be
Yes.
more appropriate.
Yeah, yeah.
and to support your drive for it.
Okay. All right. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So
I-
moved.
I
Second,
second.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Hearing none opposed, mission is adjourned at every time.
3:54.
Wow.